Hey guys, my name is Zaair Hussain. I'm the business director at Frag Games. This talk, and as you can tell, the subtitle changed in the middle, Spotting Aspiration from 10,000 Miles Away. It's just a collection of perspectives we've come across in our years of development. And I can see some of you already regretting your decision, but I hope it's going to be useful or at least interesting for you guys. This talk does have a table of contents that shouts at you. All the best talks have those. Fun fact, this talk is also going to have homework. The first claim is that play is universal. Some people need a study to believe that water will run downhill, and for those people, there's a 2013 study called Play and Cultural Context that affirmed that play can be considered a universal trait of human psychology. But really, does that surprise anyone in this room or in this industry? It's obvious if you just look around. The aesthetics of play might be cultural. They might vary from country to country, culture to culture, but the fundamentals of play are absolute, that comes from somewhere deep within us. They remain universal over time, they remain universal over place. All video games have done is take those same instincts, those same pursuits, and make them more universal than ever. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room has seen this number before, and I saw it many times. But if you dwell on it for a second, right, if you really take a minute and think 2.5 billion, that is a staggering number. It means that games, however Newzoo has defined them, games are as close to a universal human pursuit as you can get, a universal human experience. By the way, if you can't read that down there, it's like football players in the entire world, 250 million. I don't know if Newzoo also did that, but I'm going to take it. Does anyone recognize these movies? Anyone here? Is everyone younger than me? All right, for a certain generation, I get that same answer anywhere I ask this question, anywhere in the world. Because these films have become part of our shared, cross-cultural memories. Right? They were one of the few that transcended borders. If you're as old as me, and if you're as old as me, you remember that this is what the world grew up playing. It grew up figuring out how to stomp Koopas and kill cyber demons and learn juggles. And I would say these are shared global memories. Right? I would say even more so than movies, because in these cases, we engage with them directly for hundreds of hours. And very importantly, they cut across language barriers. To go a little more recent, the last generation of gamers grew up building a staggering galaxy of worlds in Minecraft. And these are just some random creations I took from around the web, and I can't tell what country server they came from. And I'm willing to bet nobody could guess that. Right? Because not only are the fundamentals of play universal, video games have made the specifics of what we play more universal than ever. Right? They're getting closer together than any other time in history, thanks to this industry. I love this figure because of the twist in the middle. Right? Since we are talking about outsourcing, since we're talking about how global is development. And this is the answer, right? Internal and external teams have been in this together for a very long time. The modern story of the games industry is writ in art and game design and mechanics and code, and it is global and universal. It has been for a while, and it's getting that more so every day. Second, aspiration is measurable. I hear a lot of people talk about aspiration, and I started thinking about it, and I was wondering how you could measure something like that. When you say, what is aspiration, usually you're talking about some quotes. I have a few of my favorites here. Dan Adelman, Jane McGonigal, who I think has a beautiful sentiment, and the greatest aspirational quote of all time, my man Thomas. But when it comes to defining aspiration, it becomes this abstract and fuzzy thing. It gets muddled up with hope. Aspiration is not hope, and it's certainly not wishing. Aspiration, in a nutshell, is the ability to envision and work towards long-term goals. Right? That's all it is. The ability to see, the next 5 to 10 years and to work towards it one day at a time. right? The decades is the vision, the days is the work. And the reason it's important to talk about the long term is because it's increasingly obvious the game industry isn't going anywhere. And it's a young industry, so we don't sometimes even people in the industry don't think of it that way. But the industry is here to stay. These are old figures, by the way. I think the latest one is 130 billion, if I'm not mistaken. So the industry isn't going anywhere. The question is, how long are you planning to be here? When you're talking about aspiration, that's one of the most important questions you can ask yourself. And it's one of the most important questions you can ask of anyone you're planning to work with. Because how they answer that question, deep down in their hearts, is going to determine what they spend their day-to-day doing. Trust us. For years, we went nowhere, or at least we were stuck kind of in a rut in the same place because we were looking for quick fixes. And I'm sure a lot of people, maybe a lot of people in this room have been in that same position. Certainly people in the industry I know have. But as soon as we just decided that we were in it for the long haul, that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we were going to be here, it made a lot of changes in us, and everything else started to change, and everything started to pick up. So what's the difference between aspiration and wishful thinking? Basically investment. Investment of time, money, resources, opportunity costs, safety, as in like being sort of less risk averse. Anything that you put in now, you sacrifice today for a chance of that, like getting to that next level later. That's an investment, and that's how you measure aspiration. The heavier your investment, the larger the aspiration it can support. Since aspiration is very personal, I can only really talk about our own. 1, 2, 3, that's it. Those are our aspirations for the next 2 years. And everyone is going to have different aspirations. But if your list is 15 or 20, there's a problem. We have dreams beyond this. We have hopes beyond this. But that's not the same thing as aspiration. And our investments, I mean, there's a few specifics. Saying no a lot more, by the way, is the most fun one. But you'll notice they all kind of come down to the same thing. It's spending time, money, resources, risk, or putting in opportunity costs right now. Spending something now to have a chance of hitting that next level in the future. You need to work smart, obviously. You need to, you should be passionate. Obviously, I think that's one of the most overstated things in the industry. But at the end of it, you have to be able to grind. And there's a lot of ways to take inspiration from that. But for me, it's this. That is a Titanite slab from the first Dark Souls. It's needed for all the highest tier upgrades. It has a 0.21% base chance of dropping. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning than getting this to drop on your first try. Don't look that up. But the point is, we as gamers should know by now the value of grinding. Aspiration is greater than inspiration. This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Does anyone here ever have those days where everything just clicks? There's a problem you've been stuck on for a week, or a bug that you couldn't get through, and just like a beam of light, you're like, oh, I can fix this. Or you come up with that perfect art style in the shower, or that perfect game mechanic that's, you wake up and you're like, finally, this is what I've been looking for. Does anyone have those moments or those days? Should count yourself lucky. We in the industry should count ourselves lucky because those are inspired days, and not everyone gets that. But the unpopular but universal truth of creative industries is that nobody is inspired all the time. That's where this comes in. This is the symbol for Tao. It means the way, and it's about walking a lifelong path to mastery. Being better tomorrow than you were yesterday, right? That's what energizes us, even on the days we're not inspired. That's when the days where nothing is happening, or you're getting one rejection after another, or things are breaking. That's those days you're not going to be able to count on inspiration to save you. It has to be something longer term. It has to be this idea of no matter what, we're building something, our capacity, our skill set, our network. We're taking our knowledge base. This is one of my favorite quotes ever. Tom Bissell. Because every day, even in this industry, can't be fun. But every day can be fulfilling. The hard way is better than the easy way. This applies to almost everything in life. It has always applied to the business of games. Here are some games that took the hard way. Small history lesson here. You'll notice they're all stone-cold classics. They captured people's imagination with amazing experiences, and they drew people in. And here are some games that took the easy way. A couple of them became infamous for exploitative microtransactions, and one of them literally crashed the entire industry. All of them exploited beloved IPs and lost the public trust to make a quick buck. The same way, finding external development partners is like anything else. The less you put into the process, the more likely you are to get burned. There is always the easy way. Right? Many studios look for the wrong traits, and they hope, there's that word again, that everything else will work out. Right? And a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. Then there's the hard way, which, trust me, is a pain in the ass. Like building any other relationship, it requires time, commitment, like a dedication to building a relationship along with a product or a series of products. It's hard, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong way to do it. If it's not already obvious, we like doing it the hard way. That is the greatest thing you'll get out of this talk, by the way, because I didn't write it. So, let's talk about finding partners. We've always been lucky in that we have a lot of great external development teams to inspire us. Not only because they were very successful commercially, but because there were examples of what great partners should be. And as it happens, we recently joined one of their families. What's up, guys? So, what makes for a great partner? Wouldn't it be handy to have a list? Say no more. Give me 1 minute. Can one of my family distribute these back? It's a handy list. Take one. The awesome partner checklist. It'll come back to you. This, by the way, disclaimer, if you use this list and still get burned, don't call me. But in my experience, this has been true for every relationship I've ever had, personal or professional. First thing is growth. What a lot of people forget is working on yourself. The easiest way to get better partners is to be a better partner, right? And once you worked on yourself, value yourself. Don't sell yourself short. Saying no to things is one of the most things that are wrong for you is one of the most empowering things a person or a company can do. After that comes courage. Now, fear can be valid. It can be based on past trauma or horror stories that you've heard. But if you go into every situation kind of cringing and thinking, oh, this is going to suck, or I'm going to get hurt, you're letting your fear control you, and you're cutting yourself off from a lot of profitable partnerships or potentially great partnerships. So, put yourself out there. Talk to people. Be open to people talking to you. Then comes discovery. This is where you have to pay attention to the people who you're talking to. You have to listen to what they're saying. Number one, most important, if you get any vibes of deceit or disrespect, you should probably bail. There's a lot of people out there, and it's not worth it. But if there are no red flags, there's the fun stuff. Do you have interesting conversations? Does it seem like you're on the same wavelength a lot? Do you see your values reflected? Most importantly, do you see this as someone you can work with for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, have a long-term relationship with? By the way, mutual respect is very important because, again, what people forget is if you don't respect the other party, it's not going to work out either. Truth, right? If I can leave you with one thing, it's this. Be open and upfront with yourself and with others in what you're looking for and what you bring to the table. I promise you, you will have more fulfilling relationships. If you got that card, by the way, remember I said there'd be homework. Fill out the back. I'm not going to ask for them back. Nobody else ever has to see them. But it might help you get a little bit of clarity. Game development is a scary, beautiful, insane, lengthy, sometimes painful, sometimes magical process. It is a huge industry out there. Is it dangerous to go alone? I don't know. But I do know that aspirational partners make the journey more fulfilling. They always have for me.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
So part motivational speak, part aspiration to outsource. So do we have any questions out there? Anyone, any thoughts? I think the cards are being passed backwards, as I understand it. So I'm going to come around here, I think now. Anyway, the point for me is, I think it's really interesting to think differently about how you interact with people. And like you say, working with teams, I work with external teams a lot. Mm-hmm. And often it's I'm a middleman, where I've got the client and they're looking for a developer. And I think it's not just working out the personal relationship, but also getting to kind of build the trust. And I think how much importance do you place on long-term engagement with somebody as opposed to the sort of immediate getting the job done?
If it's an emergency situation and you just have to get something done, otherwise an entire project is going to crash and fail, you have to take that risk. But I would say that doesn't actually describe a lot of the work out there. I think for every other situation, it is really important, like it is always better to have that long-term relationship and invest in it, even if you go through many partners and you're like, okay, these are the people I can work with. Because aside from like better or worse, everyone's different, right? Like without any value judgment to it, everyone works differently, and it takes a while to find someone where you can really click together and you understand each other's peculiarities and what is important and what is not important. Again, same as in relationships. So I think in terms of business, it is always better for both sides to be looking for that long-term partnership.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage. It could be different people have different skill sets and they have different
you can have open relationships, can be anything, but like long-term is usually better.
Exactly. So last chance for a question. And on that note, I will say thank you very much.
Thank you, Oscar.
Cheers. Thanks, man. Cool. Oh, yeah, so cool.